All right, everyone, in today's video, we're going to unbox and review Hurt Me Plenty, the ultimate guide to first-person shooters from 2003 to 2010 by Bitmap Books. All right, you guys, so we've got our hands on another book from Bitmap Books. Now, as with all of the other books we've got the same consistency as far as the quality of the packaging goes. We've got this outer plastic sleeve to protect it from any moisture or anything along its way. It took us around a week and a half to get this, so not very long. But let's open this thing up and see what we got. All right, we've got our hands on another book from Bitmap Books. This is Hurt Me Plenty, the ultimate guide to first-person shooters 2003 to 2010. It's a very nice looking book. As you can see, the letters really stand out nicely from the color and the contrast of the background to the letters themselves. Go to the end here, looks nice. Around to the back. Everything looks really nice. You can even see the attention to detail here with the barcode. The barcode itself looks like a first-person shooter. That's pretty cool. We've got our very nice bookmark that's sewn in here. Everything's just so well done with these guys. I mean, they really set the standard for not only the content within the books, but the production quality overall of how the book is manufactured. All right, so let's see what it has to say on the back. From 1992 to 2002, first-person shooters enjoyed a meteoric rise, becoming one of the most popular gaming genres. But by 2003, shooters were beginning to diverge into either big-budget epics, Medal of Honor, Half-Life 2, online multiplayer, PlanetSide, Crossfire, Mag, or quirky indies, Nosferatu, Instinct. With a foreword by Harvey Smith, Deus Ex Dishonored, Hurt Me Plenty presents detailed breakdowns of over 200 games, exploring how first-person shooters evolved from 2003 to 2010. Read about classic titles, Doom 3 and Crysis, hidden gems, Techno, The Base, Ice 9, Necrovision, and failed experiments, Shattered Horizon, and Quarry. Plus interviews with the creators of Call of Duty, Portal, Counter-Strike, BioShock, Garry's Mod, and many more. All right, now let's take a look at what's inside. We've got a neat little crosshair area here. Hurt Me Plenty. We've got our game index, so if there's a certain game that you're looking for, you can just look for the game itself and find out what page it's on. There's interviews with different people, and they've got the pixelated heads, which look pretty cool. Let's take a look at the introduction by Stuart Main. Before we delve into the world of tangos, soldiers, Nazis, and Necrovision's combination of all three, zoologies, I would like to say thanks. When I wrote the introduction to the first volume of this series, 2022's I'm Too Young to Die, I used the intro to thank developers like id Software for making their games moddable and open to player-created content, because making levels for 1996's Quake gave me a chance to get into the video game industry and begin my career as a game designer. But this time, I want to thank you, the person reading this. Well, thank you. Because enough of you liked and purchased Volume 1 that the ever-excellent Sam at Bitmap Books was happy to commission book number 2. This allowed me to take a semi-step back from 27 years of full-time game development and spend more time writing, thus beginning a new, apologies for the pun, chapter in my life. Yes, maybe this is all a midlife crisis, but at least I didn't go out and buy a motorcycle. The inescapable death of all flesh aside, something I've found while working on this second book is that it was much easier to spot its story emerging than with the first volume. It was midway through Volume 1 before I realized that it was going to revolve around id Software and a few other studios laying the foundations of a new gaming genre, with others following their lead in terms of both gameplay rules and technological approaches, before later developers came along and shook those elements up. But this time, the book's story quickly became clear, and while I won't reveal what that story is here, it's fair to say it relates to the number of games we're covering that feature real-world military themes. As a result, one of Sam's and my early concerns with this project was that the book's screenshots would be limited to soldiers holding the same realistic weapons. Fortunately, a little digging revealed that while everyone remembers the classic military series of this era, Call of Duty, Medal of Honor, Battlefield, there were in fact loads of weird and wonderful games released over this period. From the aforementioned Necrovision's bizarre take on World War I, through the mutant punching of Xenoclash, to the so nearly good Cryostasis Sleep of Reason, just like with that first book, my favorite part of this project has been finding games that I'd never heard of, even though back then I played as many FPSs as I could get my hands on. So, whether you too devoured FPSs or only played the big names, whether you played on PC or on a console, and whether you loved the immersion of single player or the competition of multiplayer, I hope this book helps you discover a hidden gem that you never tried, transporting you to a raging battlefield, a steaming jungle, a gothic town, or an abandoned spaceship. Thanks for reading, Stuart Main. Well, that's quite the introduction, and I agree completely. This era, for sure, there's a ton of military-style games, and if you're into that, that's great. I personally like the sci-fi, fantasy, hell, if you will, like Doom, where you're fighting demons and all these different things. I just find that side of it more interesting. The military games are fine. I've played a bunch of the Call of Duty games. I like those. I like the Rainbow Six games. I just think for me that when you're stuck doing a game series that's based upon factual information, specific weapons, people, events in history, that you're limited to that. Whenever you're dealing with something fantasy related, science fiction, etc., your mind can create whatever it would like. And I just find that side of it to be a little bit more interesting for me. But great introduction here by Stuart Main. So here we've got a few different images. It says the FPS in 3 images. The speed of Wolfenstein 3D, the slower stealthy observation of Thief, and Dishonored, which leaves its playstyle up to you. An overview of first-person shooters. I'm Too Young to Die, referred to as Volume 1 from now on, focused on 1992 to 2002, because that was the period over which the FPS, first-person shooter genre, emerged on PC and Mac, then gradually had its gameplay rules overturned by increasingly sophisticated console games like Halo, Combat Evolved, and Metroid Prime. So Metroid Prime, this is a great game, whether you're playing it on the original, the GameCube, or on the Nintendo Switch, great game. So this is showing an FPS timeline with some of the major titles that were released, from everything starting from Wolfenstein 3D in '92, and this goes up to 2001 with Halo Combat Evolved. And this is pretty much the first book of the series. We get into the next book, which is this book, starting off in 2003 with Call of Duty, 2003 as well was 13, 2004 Half-Life 2, 2004 with Far Cry, Fear in 2005, this is a cool game, Star Wars Republic Commando in 2005, Gary's Mod in 2006, BioShock 2007, another great game, Stalker 2007, Left 4 Dead 2008, Mirror's Edge in 2008, Borderlands in 2009, Moon 2009, Metro 2033 in 2010. FPS breakdown. I've tried to avoid going too jargon heavy with the game entries that follow, but have used some of the genre's common terms and abbreviations to keep things consistent. Here are some of those terms, along with the rundown of the elements that make up an FPS. All right, so this is just going to show us some of the verbiage and what they mean as far as this game style goes, the FPS. So we've got 1, environment. 2, your weapon. 3, the HUD, 4, health, 5, crosshair, 6, damage indicator. As far as the glossary goes, we've got a number of different things they're pointing out here. The platform, lighting, engine, textures, frame rate, shaders, 3D, gameplay, stealth, the publisher, physics, developer, license, live games, RPG, and QTE. So this just goes into some of the different terminology referenced here. Here's an interview with Stephen Kick and Samuel Villarreal. Now this is referencing again Fear. I really enjoyed this game. You can do this slow motion view and shoot at the opponents. I thought that was pretty cool. So if you've never played that game, I highly recommend checking it out. 2003. Among the innovation of Sega's 1998 Dreamcast console was the inclusion of the Windows CE operating system, a cut-down version of Windows designed for systems with less memory than a PC. The intention was to make it easy for developers to port PC games to the Dreamcast, an approach that Microsoft would continue with 2001's Xbox, causing the gap between PCs and consoles to narrow further. So we've got a screenshot here from Call of Duty. Obviously this was a very successful game when it came out. I had the game. It did very well. It spawned a number of different games. I mean, this is a huge franchise at this point. But for myself, as I had stated earlier, I really like the sci-fi fantasy the style a little better just because I think it's more creative. But these are fun to an extent. I just get kind of bored of it when it's the same thing over and over with some of these games. But this was definitely a great game, Call of Duty. Here's Unreal 2, The Awakening, developed by Legend Entertainment and for the PC and Xbox. So here's a game, Line of Sight, Vietnam. Now I've never played this game, but this is an image from it right here. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six 3 Raven Shield. I really liked the Rainbow Six Vegas game. I thought that was pretty cool. But all of these Rainbow Six games are pretty well made.
Here is 1945. The Nazi war machine is crumbling. As fascist regimes all over Europe collapse, those who once looted and terrorized the continent now look desperately for any way to escape.
Hostile down. Threat eliminated. Hostile eliminated. Clear.
Here's RoboCop for the GameCube, PC, PS2, and Xbox, developed by Titus Interactive. I never played this game, not sure how good or bad it is, but I would definitely like to check it out. Big fan of RoboCop, so this could be pretty cool. Or it couldn't be, who knows.
All available units. Getting shootout is strong. Check the warehouses near West End Street.
This is the police. Drop all your weapons. Be tolerated. You have been warned.
Here's Mace Griffin Bounty Hunter that was released on PC, PS2, and Xbox by developer Warthog Games. I've heard of this game. It looks pretty cool, but I've never played it.
I used to be a ranger. I kept the peace in the galactic frontier. But the corporations got greedy for land and turned the galaxy into a battlefield. I stood against them to defend the helpless. They killed my squad, framed me, locked me away for 10 long years. They've only made one mistake, letting me go.
Tron 2.0. Really like the Tron movies. I've never played this game, so I'm not sure what to expect with it, but it was developed by Monolith Productions and released on Mac, PC, and Xbox.
Program, I will crush you!
Inside every computer system lives a world much like our own.
How did you know I could hold my own out there?
And corruption threatens the code of humanity.
This is not just a game.
Mercury!
This spring, return to the world of Tron.
So Warhammer 40,000, this is a huge franchise. I mean, they've got a number of games. They've got tabletop games, all kinds of things related to Warhammer. This game here was released in 2003. It was developed by Kuju Entertainment and released for the PC and PS2. Again, huge franchise. Then we've got Judge Dredd, Dredd versus Death. That was developed by Rebellion Developments and released on the GameCube, PC, PS2, Xbox. I really liked the movie Dredd. The first Judge Dredd with Sylvester Stallone was okay. I think they were leaning more just on it being a Sylvester Stallone movie than actually being a Judge Dredd movie. And I get that maybe the character of Judge Dredd isn't as common or popular as, let's say, Superman or what have you from comic books. But I really like the idea of Judge Dredd. I think it's a very cool comic series, and I wish they would make a follow-up, whether it's a TV show or another movie to Dredd that came out a little while back. I think that's a great movie. It's very well done. It's all about the character. You don't even see the actor's face. So it's really just focusing on the character itself and developing that and just focusing on a story. And it doesn't have a ton of different characters and everything. It's focused on this main building. I really think that movie's well done. Hopefully one of these days we'll get some type of a series or a movie off of that. I know they talked about doing a series. I don't know if they will, but yeah, that would definitely be pretty cool.
It is the third decade of the 22nd century. Unemployment is endemic, boredom is universal, and only the judges can prevent total anarchy. Empowered to dispense instant justice, they are judge, jury, and executioner all in one. The most feared and respected of all the judges is Dredd. He is the law.
So here we go, Call of Duty. Developed by Infinity Ward, platforms Mac and PC. Obviously this is a huge game. Everybody's familiar with Call of Duty nowadays just because of everything that's came out of that franchise. But yeah, definitely it's a good game, and it really did a lot for the industry.
Mother Russia, comrades! Do not turn your back on her!
So here's the game 13. I've never played this. Developed by Ubisoft Paris, and it came out on the GameCube, Mac, PC, PS2, and Xbox. It's got this cartoony look to it, which isn't bad. Maybe this is a cool game. It looks, as it states here, it says really leans into the graphic novel aesthetic. Definitely it looks like a novel, or a graphic novel rather, with these little panes, and then just the artwork overall. So this may be an interesting game to try out.
continue the work that my brother William started.
Number 13 will soon no longer be a problem.
In 2004. This year saw publisher Acclaim finally go bankrupt after years of difficulties. Video game companies come and go all the time, but let's dig into Acclaim's demise as an interesting example. Founded in 1987 by 3 ex-Activision employees, Acclaim was named to put the company alphabetically before both Activision and Accolade, another company formed by ex-Activision staff. So how interesting is that? They used the name Acclaim so that their name would be listed before the other two. It's very common in businesses, so that let's say you have AAA plumbing or whatever, to use those types of names. So whenever you're doing a search online for a company or what have you, that name will come up first because it'll typically do some type of an alphabetical search. But I've never even thought about Acclaim doing that as from an alphabetical standpoint, or why that would have benefited them. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. Maybe they were just trying to be, smart asses and do it that way. I don't know. But it's interesting nonetheless. Here's Unreal Tournament 2004, released by Epic Games. And this was released on the Mac and PC. So this is kind of a continuation of the Unreal Tournament games where you've got multiplayer mode and very fun. This kind of lives off of the predecessors as far as this genre goes, and just being able to have multiplayer mode in these first-person shooters definitely adds to the fun of these games.
The rules of engagement have changed. Headshot. Vehicular warfare. Aerial combat. Deep space dogfights. Awesome new weaponry. The tournament just went into overdrive. Featuring a wealth of new maps, one-on-one combat, and large-scale battles in huge environments. Reload. Rev up. Ride out. Car chat. Unreal Tournament 2004.
Far Cry, developed by Crytek for the PC. Obviously this series is very well known. They've made a number of games off of it, and it's a franchise that keeps going.
Just noise, I guess.
Like right! Watch out! We need backup! Let's shoot him!
I told you 100 times, stop talking like that. You never know who's listening.
Nitro Family, developed by Delphi Entertainment and released on the PC. Now, I've never played this game, but boy, does it look interesting. Just look at this picture. Not even sure what I'm looking at right there. Anyhow, yeah, this looks like an interesting game. I don't know how good or bad it is, but it's interesting. Halo 2, developed by Bungie, released on PC and Xbox. Everybody's familiar with Halo, huge franchise, doing TV shows and everything now. The Chronicles of Riddick, Escape from Butcher Bay, released on PC and Xbox. I'm sure anyone that's watching this video is familiar with the Chronicles of Riddick movies. They're all right. Vin Diesel's okay. I'm kind of burnt out on him, especially after 1,000 Fast and Furious movies. But anyhow, these are decent movies. Not sure about the game, never played it.
Welcome to Butcher Bay. Triple Max Security Prison. Toughest slam in the universe. Impossible to escape.
But then they'd never met me.
Inside the walls is chaos, madness, death. Only the cunning will survive. Only the power to see through darkness can save you. Only the one who can take out an army can break out of hell.
What's hell without a little fire?
Doom 3, also released in 2004 by developer id Software, and released for the Mac, PC, and Xbox. Everybody loves Doom. Great game franchise. Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, developed by Retro Studios and released on the GameCube and Wii. Now, I really like the Metroid series. The games are great. Everything back from the NES and forward. These are good games. I really wish they would make a television series or a movie. I think a television series would be more appropriate so that they're not just stuck to a 2-hour window. They could build up the character and the enemies and how everything fits together much better. Maybe like Netflix or Amazon Prime Video, where they've got the money behind it to really sink some time into the production. You know, if they had a sci-fi director like Ridley Scott or somebody backing it as well to develop this, I think it would be great. They could really make a good show, maybe with an R rating because of the violence, obviously. But I think it would be a really well done show if they did that, and a lot of people would really get into it. 2005. Video games have come under scrutiny by legislators and the press for various reasons, with FPSs like Doom cited in complaints about violence in games. But 2005 would see the calls for government control over gaming reach new heights when developer Rockstar Games dared to feature something the US considers way worse than violence: sex. Oh boy. We all know who Rockstar Games is, the types of games that they make, the Grand Theft Auto series. They had a series called Manhunt. It was not a first-person shooter, but that game was over the top as well. Oddworld Stranger's Wrath, developed by Oddworld Inhabitants on platform Xbox. So there's a number of Oddworld games that came out. They're pretty fun to play. If you haven't played them, I would definitely recommend checking them out. So here's a game called Geist that was developed by InSpace and released for the GameCube. This looks pretty neat. I never played it, but I definitely like to check it out. It looks like it'd be pretty neat. this is interesting looking here. Vivisector Beast Within, developed by Action Forms for the PC. This looks pretty crazy. We've got, it looks like hyena men. I guess these are hyena men running around. So there's different men with animal heads. I don't know anything about this game, but it definitely looks interesting.
Unexpected circumstances lead you to Surrey, Ohio.
Who are we? There are 5 fingers on our hands, but we're not human. We have skin and fangs, but we're not animals. Are we not faster? Are we not stronger? Are we not smarter? Isn't this our land? Then why do they rule, not us?
Unlimited action. 35 enemies. 24 levels.
All right, Fear, First Encounter Assault Recon, developed by Monolith Productions and released on PC, PS3, and Xbox 360. I played this on the 360. Really liked the game. It's got this slow motion element, and it's really cool because you can move around to shoot people with that slow motion, and it just really, the effect is done really well in this game. I know other games have slow motion, but it's done really well in this game, and it really adds to the fun. I think if it didn't have that aspect, it wouldn't be nearly as good of a game as it is, but this is definitely a fun game to play. If you haven't played it, check it out. Fear
is a basic human emotion. What frightens you more? The evil that you know? Or the evil that you don't know?
Little Bird, what's your situation? Over. Little Bird, come in. What the hell?
Something's coming. It doesn't sound like soldiers.
What is that?
I got a bad feeling about this. We're under attack. They're all over the place.
I need backup.
Come on. Storm them. We're taking fire. The goddamn ambush. I've been shot. Who's that? Oh, shit. Son of a bitch. Check your safe. Expect company. This is team leader.
Here's Quake 4, developed by Raven Software and released on the Mac, PC, and Xbox 360. Starship Troopers, developed by Stronglight and released for the PC. Now, I like Starship Troopers a lot. I think that's a fun movie. There's been a number of different things that's happened with that franchise over the years. The first one is a great movie. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. I would assume if you're watching this video, you probably have, or at least know of it, but definitely a fun movie. I've never played the game. I don't know how good or bad it is, but I have heard of it. I know it's out there. I just never have played it, so maybe one of these days I'll check it out. Perfect Dark Zero, developed by Rare and released for the Xbox 360. This game was alright. I played it when it came out on the 360. So this sounds interesting. Liquidator 2, Welcome to Hell, developed by Parallax Art Studio and released on the PC. The artwork style is crazy looking. I don't know how good or bad this game is, but it's definitely something I would like to check out. And you know, when a lot of these games came out, I wasn't ever really big into PC gaming. I know there's a ton of great titles that came out for the PC. So maybe one of these days I will try to get some of these games for our computer and try to play them, especially older games. They're not very hard to play anymore as far as what kind of computer you need. Obviously newer games require a much better performance computer, but on these older games it's not a big deal. So maybe one of these days I'll do that. 2006. This year saw Half-Life 2, base sandbox, Gary's Mod, released as a standalone product. But though we throw the term mod around, what does it actually mean within the FPS genre? Short for modifying. Modding encompasses all the ways that fans of a game express themselves through that game by changing or adding to it. So I can remember Eli and I many years ago hopping online and playing Gary's Mod and playing some of the different games and things they had on there for that. It was definitely very fun. As we start scrolling through this book, it's interesting. Just like the last FPS book, since it's done by years, as we go through each year, you can see the advancement as far as the graphics go from game to game in each year. You know, here, this game Neuro, you can see where you start to see these heat signatures from the people and just the way everything looks. It's continually getting better and better and better. It's neat looking in this book like this because it doesn't take us, but a few minutes to flip through some of this stuff, and we can really see the difference in the progression. When you're living through that time frame, your eyes don't really pay as much of attention to it because it's gradual. But looking through something like this, where you're looking at, a handful of pages for each year, you really see the differences. Here we've got Half-Life 2 Survivor, developed by Taito and released on the arcade.
Welcome to City 17.
Gordon Freeman. Let me get a look at you, man. Oh.
Okay, here we've got Call of Juarez, developed by Techland and released for the PC and Xbox 360. I never played this game. I know what it is. It was kind of like Call of Duty, but in the Wild West. I think it was done pretty well. From what I've heard, it's a pretty decent game, but I've never played it myself.
The legend of the lost gold of Juarez has been passed from one generation to the next since the time of Hernando Cortez. It was said to be the ransom for Montezuma, held hostage by the Spanish in the great Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan. The treasure disappeared soon after the sacking of the city. Some believe it's buried near the border town of Juarez. The legend relates that the Aztec sun god put a curse on that treasure. All who seek it will find only madness and their own perdition. This avaricious madness has come to be known as the Call of Juarez.
Resistance: Fall of Man. This was released on the PS3 and developed by Insomniac Games. So here's a game that I really liked as far as the Rainbow Six series goes. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Vegas, that was developed by Ubisoft and released for PC, PS3, and Xbox 360. I played it on my Xbox 360 at the time, and I really liked this game. I think it's very well done. If you haven't played it, then I recommend checking it out.
You're just gonna let her die? Give them what they want!
Here we go, we've got Gary's Mod, developed by Gary Newman, Face Punch Studios, released on the Mac and PC. So Gary's Mod had all kinds of different stuff you could do on there. Again, I remember Eli and I playing this many years ago and just jumping into some of these different games and things. I think Roblox has gotten a lot of inspiration from this for sure. 2007. Among several classic FPSs released in 2007 is arguably the year's biggest title, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. Among its many achievements, Modern Warfare would feature in MLG Major League Gaming esport tournaments, putting it in a long line of FPSs being played as esports. The genre's esports roots go back to the game that popularized deathmatch play, Doom, which alongside Raven's Hexen, featured in the 1995 Microsoft-sponsored tournament Judgment Day. So Modern Warfare, we all know what it is. I mean, they've made numerous different versions of that game, and it's been very successful. Here we've got a game called Cell Factor Revolution that was developed by Artificial Studios and Immersion Games and released for PC. Never played this game, but it looks pretty neat. It says, Revolution delivers chaotic action over tactics. And Revolution's crowded HUD is part of its aesthetic. All right, here we got BioShock, developed by Irrational Games, 2K Boston, 2K Australia, released for the Mac, PC, PS3, Xbox 360, and I think it's been ported over to everything else at this point too. This is such a great game. For me, I think as far as a first-person shooter goes, especially single player, this is probably my favorite game franchise for a first-person shooter. Played them all, beat them all. I really like Duke Nukem a lot, but that's more, you know, it mixes first person and multiplayer. It's a little bit more comedic. I think for a more serious tone, I really like the BioShock series. And supposedly they're working on a new one. I don't know if that's ever going to happen or not. I'd definitely check it out if they did. But I just think this idea was so original, you know, the city under the ocean and going in there and doing all these things. I think they did such a great job with this game. And it's something that, you know, any point in time in the future, you could definitely go back and play it and really have fun with it. It's not something that's going to just go away and be boring over time. It's going to stand the test of time. But definitely, BioShock, I would say it's probably my favorite first-person shooter game series.
man has a choice. I chose the impossible. I built a city where the artist would not fear the censor, where the great will not be constrained by the small, where the scientist would not be bound by petty morality. I chose to build rapture. But my city was betrayed by the weak. So I ask you, my friend, if your life were the prize, would you kill the innocent? Would you sacrifice your humanity? We all make choices, but in the end, our choices make us.
Here's another Metroid Prime game. This is Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, developed by Retro Studios and released for the Wii. As I stated earlier, I really like Metroid games. Metroid Prime 3 Corruption is no exception. It's supposed to be coming out with a new Metroid Prime game for the Nintendo Switch and Switch 2 later this year. I'll definitely be checking that out. Portal, developed by Valve and released on PC, PS3, and Xbox 360. So this is a popular game. I'm sure probably anybody watching this video has heard of Portal at this point, but this is pretty interesting. Here's Clive Barker's Jericho, developed by Mercury Steam Entertainment and Alchemic Productions, released for the PC, PS3, and Xbox 360. I never played this game, but I am a fan of Clive Barker's his books and his movies, Hellraiser, Nightbreed, Lord of Illusions, etc. So I don't know how good or bad this game is, and I don't know how much Clive Barker was actually involved in the game as well. You know, how much he actually had to say about doing different things, but I'll have to check this one out.
An ancient city emerged from the sands of time, bringing with it the seed of all evil.
Church, Cole, secure the entrance. The rest of you with me.
Here's another game here as well, Hellgate London, developed by Flagship Studios, Ping Zero, and released for the PC. I've never played this game, but it looks pretty cool. And here we go, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, developed by Infinity Ward and released on Mac, PC, PS3, Wii, and Xbox 360. Obviously, this was a very, very popular game. And the franchise still remains very popular today.
Move. Heads up!
Сегодня одной нации мы восприняли перед лицом
Here's an interview with Ken Levine, where he's talking about different things with BioShock. 2008. In 2008, Apple opened the App Store, which provides games and apps for iPhones and iPads. While the App Store has proved controversial for various legitimate reasons, for example, Apple taking a large cut of revenue, difficulties with discoverability, and game preservation, etc., there's no denying its success. As of 2016, there were over 2 million apps on the store. And in 2023, it's expected to make $490 billion in revenue. Wow. I can't even grasp, $490 billion in revenue. That's crazy. Here we've got Turok, developed by Propaganda Games, and it was released on PC, PS3, and Xbox 360. Now, I never played this for the 360. Let's see what all it has to say here. Turok was a short-lived Propaganda Games' first title, followed only by 2010's third-person Tron Evolution before Disney closed the studio. Rebooting the Turok series after the last entry, 2002's Turok Evolution, this has few ties to the original games. Instead of being accompanied by a blue-skinned alien while toting an arsenal of more than 20 weapons, here you're limited to a couple of guns, have to take cover to allow your health to recharge, and have as a companion the grumbly-voiced Ron Perlman. But though the gray, green, brown color palette is murky and its levels are linear, Turok represents satisfyingly weighty combat and some tense situations. Turns out there are a few more stressful feelings than knowing that a T-Rex is closing in behind you, but not how far away it is. The game's biggest flaw is adopting the QTE's quick time events that were so prevalent in this era, meaning when a dinosaur lunges at you, you need to rapidly bash buttons to escape its jaws. This would be fine if the little bastards didn't queue up while you're doing that, trapping you in a cycle of button mashing. Despite selling over 1 million copies, the studio's closure ended work on a sequel. More on this in the final chapter. But while ignored on release, and despite losing much of the original game's wild imagination, Turok is still worth checking out if you're looking for some old-fashioned dinosaur blasting and/or a chance to shoot a T-Rex in the head with a bow and arrow. So there's supposed to be a new Turok game coming out. I think it's this year or next year. I'm definitely looking forward to checking that out. I like the Turok comic books. I mean, this has been a comic book series for a long time. I think it's pretty cool. And the games that were released for the 64, etc., etc. I never played this version. I don't know how good or bad it is. I'll have to check it out on the Xbox 360, but I definitely like the genre. I like the franchise overall, and I'm curious to see what that new game is going to be like.
Turok.
Here we've got Fallout 3, developed by Bethesda Game Studios and released on PC, PS3, and Xbox 360. Obviously, there's a number of Fallout games. That franchise has just really taken off to be a number of things, including the new show, which I like. It's pretty good.
Our American way of life. Isn't it grand? Peace, freedom, and bacon and eggs. Seems perfect. But what if it's not? Friends, your future may not be as secure as you think. Where will you be when the atomic bombs fall? You can secure your family's future by reserving a spot in a state-of-the-art underground vault from Vaultec. That's right, Bob. Act now, and your family can wait out the horrors of nuclear devastation. And Doris, the vault will have all the amenities of your modern-day home, and it's attractive. And Sally, in the vault, you might meet that special someone, just as you would on the surface. And in a few short years, you and your fellow vault dwellers will repopulate our great country. And Billy, you'll have lots of swell kids to play with. Reserve your family spot in a state-of-the-art underground vault today. Sign up now and prepare for the future.
I've got a dream of Snowville, where one day with picket fence and rambling road.
So here's another franchise title here, Left 4 Dead. This was developed by Turtle Rock and Valve, released for Mac, PC, and Xbox 360. So there's been a number of these games now as well. Left 4 Dead, a lot of people like them. (2009). No one will argue that every FPS we've covered has been a masterpiece, but it can be interesting to ask what went wrong on a particular project. After all, developers invest years of their lives and large sums of publisher money into every project, so no one's setting out to deliberately fail. How do you judge success anyways? Review scores, money made, player count, even failed games can establish a team's reputation and lead to more chances. So this brings up an interesting point here in regards to how to judge success, and not just for video games, talking about life in general. You know, you need to understand whenever you go to do a project or do anything in life, what you're looking to get out of it. If you're just wanting to do something, or if you're trying to get a financial gain, etc., you need to understand up front what that is, because you need to have an expectation. And if let's say you're trying to do something and you don't really have a goal in mind and things just don't go right, it can become very defeating, and then you may end up giving up on whatever you're doing. And that happens with everything in life. You know, we're talking about video games here, and that happens with video game projects. People may not have the right focus or the right financing or whatever it may be that may lead to a project failing or ending. And then, like in this case, it says money. Okay, maybe you've set goals where you're trying to get your finances for this new game to a certain benchmark after a certain period of time, and it doesn't do it. Okay, well, maybe that's not a success. Well, maybe you're not looking on the financial perspective. Maybe you're wanting that, you know, 10, 20, 30 years down the road, they're still talking about the game today, and it's got this like cult following. Maybe that's your ideal success. I think personally it's more of the memories and how people look back at things. Because yeah, you can make money on different things and just generate that. But is it long lasting? Will people ever really remember it in the future or talk about it? Maybe, maybe not. For me, that's more of success. But yeah, it's interesting to read this here. And it just goes in, like I said, to a number of different things, not just video games, but life in general. And what is your success? What do you find for yourself to be successful in different things? Here we've got Necrovision, developed by the Farm 51 group and released on PC. Never played it, but it looks pretty cool. Here's an image. Necrovision's tone is confused, but its combat is great, and it looks like it. Here we've got Killing Floor, developed by Shatterline Productions, Tripwire International, and released on the PC. I've heard of this game, I've never played it. Here we go, Wolfenstein, developed by Raven Software and released on PC, PS3, and Xbox. You really can't go wrong with the Wolfenstein games. They're all pretty fun to play. I've never played one that I thought was like a bad game. Some of them are a little better than others, but I think overall these Wolfenstein games are pretty fun.
I think about the war, I don't dwell on the experiments I took part in, or the monsters we created. The one memory that stays in my mind is the man who fought us and gave us our greatest defeat.
Borderlands. Everybody's familiar with Borderlands, developed by Gearbox Software, released on PC, PS3, Xbox 360. Yeah, I played this when it originally came out for the 360. I was never crazy about the game. I know a lot of people really likes it, and that's great if you do. They came out with a movie recently. The movie was, it was okay. It wasn't that great, really. The game, again, it's like some people really love this game, and then some people, I guess like me, just can take it or leave it. Here's an interview with Min Lee, and it states, like many, Min started development with Doom levels. 2010. How we purchase games evolved considerably during this decade, with the internet allowing creators to experiment with new ways of reaching players. The first Humble Bundle, an idea by Wolffire Games' Jeff Rosen, ran in 2010. It included 6 games in a single purchase and allowed individuals to determine how much of the bundle's cost went to the publishers of the games included, to Humble themselves, and to the Electronic Frontier Foundation and Child's Play charities. So it's very interesting. I've never heard of this before, but it's the idea of being able to decide how much money of something is going to a publisher, to a charity, or etc. I think that's an interesting approach. Here's a pretty neat looking game, Singularity. Never played it, but it looks pretty cool. Here we go, BioShock 2, released on Mac, PC, PS3, and Xbox 360. So BioShock 2 was definitely not as good as BioShock 1. I think where they messed up with BioShock 2, they were trying to do too much of the same as BioShock 1, with just little changes. And to me, some of that game felt like I was just kind of playing the same game over again. It's not bad. It's a good game. It's well made, but I think some of it's just too much like its predecessor. I thought that BioShock Infinite was a much better game than BioShock 2, but again, it is there, and it's a fun game to play if you haven't played it. Here's Alien vs. Predator, developed by Rebellion, released on PC, PS3, and Xbox 360.
Welcome to Freya's Prospect. Weyland-Yutani's garden amongst the stars. All you have to do is leave, and I give you my word you will not be pursued. At least, not by any of my personnel.
Metro 2033, developed by 4A Games and released for PC and Xbox 360. So I had an Alienware Steam computer, and when I got it, it had a download of this game, and I played it, and it was all right. Singularity, developed by Raven Software and released on PC, PS3, and Xbox 360. I never played it, but this looks pretty cool.
I had great intentions, but they blinded me to the truth of what we created. They have harnessed the singularity and claimed the future as their own. The only way to stop them is to take control of time itself. Old turns to new. Life turns to death. And death becomes something in between. There is potential, there is hope, and in the right hands, there is still time to make things right.
This looks interesting. Bloody Good Time, developer Outer Light and released on PC and Xbox 360. You can see here, this is an image from Bloody Good Time. I'm not sure what to expect, but I'd definitely like to check it out and just see how good or bad this actually is.
No, no, sugar! That's not what fear is. Total fear is... This is total fear. Igor! Thank you, Igor. And cut.
2011 and beyond. Let's wrap things up with a look at trends in the FPS genre post-2010. As soon as FPSs could relatively easily include online multiplayer, publishers began to demand that games do so wherever possible in the hope of building a long-term community around that game. See 2008's introduction for more on why retaining players is important. But as with many things in video game development, it was never that simple. So this is talking about retaining players, and I think a good example of that is with Fortnite. So definitely Fortnite's not a first-person shooter, but I think Fortnite does a good job considering all of the different game modes that you can play that's released directly by Epic, the fact that there's a ton of games that creators can make, and the fact that it's a free game to play. You don't actually have to pay for it, but if you want to get the battle pass and the skins, there's different things in there that you can pay, and that's what they're relying on, is people coming back time after time again. They continually update the maps with different things, and I think they've really figured out how to do that to retain the players. This is talking about it a little bit here, but I think the perfect example for that would be a game like Fortnite, getting the same players to come back year after year after year and continue to spend money on that game. Here's the game right here. Looks pretty wild. I never played it, It's called Serious Sam 4, and it looks pretty damn serious based on that image. Unreleased first-person shooters. For all the games we've covered over this period, many more will have been canceled before release. Casualties of industry, publisher or developer politics, a licensed IP suddenly becoming worthless, impassable technical hurdles, overstretched ambitions, and just plain bad luck. It seems fitting to finish with a look at some of these unreleased first-person shooters. So what do we got here? We got Doom 4. We got a promotional shot of Prey 2. The final Turok game was 2002's Evolution. Here's a screenshot from the canceled Doom 4 game. 2016's Doom reboot reinvigorated the series. Yes, it did. That's a cool game. And here's a thanks to some people that were interviewed. You notice they've got the pixelated faces now, but they're all bloody. That's pretty cool. So if you're interested in this book, definitely check out I'm Too Young to Die. That's the first book of this series. It's got a ton of information in regards to these first-person shooters, how they came about, the first ones, etc., leading up to this book we have right here. All right, well, we went through the book. It's great, just like all the other books that we've gotten from these guys. This, for me, it's not only a good way to kind of reminisce of the games that I can remember and really enjoy playing, but as well, it shows me a lot of games that I never played that I want to check out. You know, as we were going through this, there was a number of games that I had stated that I had never played, and I'm definitely interested in checking a lot of those out, especially a lot of those PC games that I just never really took the time to play. I only went through just a little bit of this. I mean, there's a ton of information here, a lot of pages and games that I didn't go through. This is just a quick run through of what this thing has to offer. I highly recommend checking it out. Bitmap Books, Hurt Me Plenty, The Ultimate Guide to First-Person Shooters, 2003 to 2010. All right, everyone, you just seen us unbox and review Hurt Me Plenty, The Ultimate Guide to First-Person Shooters from 2003 to 2010. Now, this is a pretty good book. I mean, it's just like everything else we've gotten from these guys, everything from the binding to the content to the interviews, etc. There's a ton to learn here, to read about. If there's a specific game from that era that you like a lot, maybe you want to know just a little bit more about, there's more than likely chances that you're going to find out something in this book that you didn't know. Also, if there's some games maybe that you would like to experience, you know, you can look through this and there's a ton of different games in here. More than likely you have not played all of them. And maybe this will point you in a direction to try to experience some of those games. You know, in our case, there's definitely a number of games that I know, but there's a lot in this case that I don't know. A lot of them's military-based games that, you know, I got kind of burnt out on those after a little while, but there's still a ton of them from this era that I'm not familiar with. And I'm going to use a book as a resource to try and experience some of those games with my kids. If you're into first-person shooters or any kind of video game literature, or maybe someone you know is, then I think this would be a great gift for them. Thanks for tuning in the video, you guys. We really appreciate it. And until next time, keep gaming.